side, we always look forward to this presentation in the year of sharing a few things that we have spotted just randomly. So it is a random selection of interesting things. I think you have enough information about financial services. And if you watch the news or just open your phone, you get enough on politics and economics. So I was looking for a few other things that I could just randomly put in. And so I'm just going to share some of those interesting dots from the horizon with you. And yes, like John and Haylette said, please make comments in the chat if you're listening. Make notes, try to make the connection. Could that touch our business? Where could it shift things? Could it move things or influence or anything like that? And let us know. So without any further ado, I just want to make sure, Haylette, am I sharing my slide now?
Thanks, Doris.
Yes, cool. So the theme is news from the horizon. That is what we do at the Institute for Futures Research. We keep one eye on the horizon to see what is moving and what is shifting, that kind of stuff. So I will bring a few of that. So 8 of those dots I will be sharing. And then 4 things in our world of shifting, the shifting role of where's humans in this story with tech and stuff. 4 things to cultivate or to foster within an organization, and then a fresh new report on the state of corporate foresight across the world, and then a few next opportunities. Every year, the Dubai Future Forum creates a report with 50 potential opportunities, so I've just selected a few of those. All right, so a random selection of what we thought was interesting things. So number 1 from the 8 dots on the horizon. The first one is, as South Africans, we only look young. So in demographic terms, if you look at the population of a country, one of the big indicators is the median age, the middle value of that population. Now, South Africa's median age is 28, which means that half of the population is 28 years or older, and the other half is 28 years or younger, making us one of the youngest populations across the world, older than the rest of Africa, but one of the youngest ones. And therefore, we're seeing all the initiatives focusing on young people, as we should. But like I said, we only look young because there's also this. This is the projected number of people aged 80 and older in South Africa. And we're not really planning sufficiently for this. We're not creating systems and processes to support people getting older or living way, way, way longer. And this is already, we're feeling strain within the systems that support older people already. And going forward, it's probably just going to increase rapidly. Okay, so that's the first one. Second one, business is trusted to be ethical and competent. I mean, business bashing is a thing in South Africa. If we listen to commentary and everything, business always are bad guys. But Edelman did their research and their survey, and they asked people, who do you trust in South Africa to act in both a competent and ethical manner? And there we go. Look at where business sits. And that is a rapid increase from the previous survey. So business is trusted. People from South Africa think that business can be trusted. So well done. Take the badge. Third one, our people are losing hope. If we look at the Bureau for Economic Research, they do their quarterly survey and they ask business leaders, do you feel optimistic or pessimistic about business at the moment? And a score of 50 or less means that they are pessimistic, and 50 or more is optimistic. Now, at the moment, the latest one is Q2 2025, and that was on 40. But why I'm showing you the longer term thing is to see when last we were feeling hopeful and optimistic about business in South Africa. And I think in your engagement with business, and maybe you feel that yourself as well, that sort of pressure on the shoulders of we're grinding, we're carrying on, but it's a tough grind, kind of. And so, yeah, people are suffering in business. They're really finding it hard to be optimistic. Number 4, there are many innovative things in early development. We always have to teach you at least one new word in these sessions. So the word for today is nanozymes. All right. I tested it on my husband and he says, what? Okay, so nanozymes, they make in a lab. It's like enzymes. Now, remember, enzymes are agents that create activity in multiple bodies. They make chemical reactions. Now, what they're trying to do is to make these in a lab from nanomaterials. So it's going to be cheaper, simpler to produce, and they can use them in multiple applications, right? Things like purifying water or making food safer, but also potentially for cancer or neurodegenerative diseases and things like that. So nanozymes is the new word for today. Other things in early development, they've tested this on rabbits only, so preparing for human trials, but complex fractures are notoriously difficult to set because they try the screws and the plates, and then there's always still jagged edges that they hope would reach each other. So the Japanese people that are doing this research are playing with the idea of something similar to a glue gun with filament that is made from bony, growy kind of substances, but also anti-inflammatory kind of things so that it doesn't. And that the surgeon would then in theater would use this to just put it in, and then it will, like you put in glue gun or silicone from a gun, in the complex fracture, and there you go, bone set and all. Like I said, still already proven in rabbits, still a while to go, but very interesting research here. Now, battery technology. People have been making batteries for a really long time. And only recently we started realizing, ooh, when batteries get to the end of their life, it is a really hazardous kind of thing to dispose of. And the materials inside is so complex that it's really hard to recycle in any way. So what these people from MIT is doing is to, right from the start, only select and choose and use materials that can actually be recycled in the end, so that they already, by design the battery to be recyclable, right? So they start with easily recyclable materials and then decide how to make them battery-like kind of thing. So this is an interesting approach that follows the notion of this circular, no waste, regenerative kind of approaches that we are seeing more and more in design. And then the research was done in the US, but they're piloting it in the UK as well, a blood test that could identify early onset or Alzheimer's from just a blood test. Because, I mean, those of you that knows it's really difficult to diagnose, especially early. And here they are playing with the idea of a simple blood test. Right. Dot number 5. We've now looked at things that were still far off, but there are also interesting things that are already available for use. And the one is insurance against AI-driven losses. So what this insurance is if your cleverness gave advice to somebody and that was not good advice, you can insure against the potential loss of your cleverness hallucinating or talking nonsense. Second one is we're doing more and more interesting things on disinformation security. In other words, security technologies that are put into a system to help you trust the information that you receive, or that somebody else can trust the information that you send out, so that there is all kinds of detection technologies so that deepfakes can't do their thing anymore. And what the interesting thing emerging there is what is called generative watermarking, so that you already into a document or into a picture or something, just like what we have watermarks on money, that there is a digital or technological watermark in there that verifies that this actually came from you, or that it, and they're also negotiating with big technology platforms that if you, for instance, generated something on LLM or graphics or some platform, that it will carry their watermark. So if you are putting it up, then if somebody looks, then they will know, oh, you've generated this text or whatever from elsewhere. And then, I mean, we've had robots all along, but now they're getting way smarter. And Polyfunctional says they can do multiple things. They come in different forms, either physical or just as a piece of cleverness that can speak to you. And layered with LLM kind of generative technologies and things, those robots can become really, really impressive. End of last year, I had the privilege of spending a bit of time in Microsoft's Innovation Lab, and they're actually working on a humanoid robot. But what they were working on was on the micro expressions, so that I mean, up to now, the faces were just doing that kind of, but so that it was at the same time super impressive and super freaky to speak to their prototype with the micro expressions and everything on the face. So micro expressions is those little things that we do with our eyes and our faces that makes our faces more human. So they're working on that for humanoid robots. And then, I mean, agentic AI, where you can teach an AI to act as though it had a mandate. So you give it a little bit of a box to play in and say, this is what you are allowed to do. These are the rules that you have to play with. These are the goals that we want you to attain. And what we can do now is to actually make up a team of AI agents that can do collaborative sensing, work together to attain a certain goal. Towards the end of October, we're going to have the World Future Studies Federation's conference here in Cape Town at our premises. And one of the abstracts that was submitted was a researcher that wanted to do a Delphi study. A Delphi is where you ask multiple experts their opinions on something, and then you go through a process until they all agree on it. So what he did was to create multiple AI agents, but based on real life experts. So this is expert A's AI agent, expert B, and he did the Delphi with the AI agents. And then just for fun, he repeated it with the real experts and then compared the results. And they were pretty close. I think the real experts, there was about a 12% discrepancy. I think the real experts just didn't want to admit that the AI actually got it. Maybe. All right. So you can set up all kinds of teams to work together. Number 6 from the horizon. We're getting more responsible. There is an increasing focus on intergenerational justice. Greta and friends opened our eyes to, hey, you people, older people, you messed up the earth. What about us, kind of thing? And there is a lot of movements and also a lot of commitment, especially from business, to say, let us think, let us consider our activities and how that would have an influence on second and third and fourth generations going forward. I think your organization in South Africa is a prime example in your messaging to the market, etc., to have that longer term view. What are we leaving for the kids? That kind of thing. But then, I mean, like in everything, there's also the cross question, but yeah, are we really getting more responsible? And here I looked at that ESG pendulum, that everybody's, yay, yeah, let's do ESG. And then the president of the other country said, no, that's not a thing anymore. And then everybody started thinking, no, then maybe it's the truth. Maybe it is not a thing anymore. So on the one hand, we see countries committing to ESG targets, and listed companies must now report on their ESG things. On the other side, they're now accusing many South African companies of greenwashing and say, no, you only look as though you're doing this. A Dutch pension swinging otherwise in the Netherlands, literally just last week, one of the world's largest pension funds said, no, we're going to withdraw our investments from BlackRock because you are just doing fossil fuels. You said you were going to move somewhere else, but you're not, so we're going to take our money away. But then on the other side, I mean, in the USA, they started, in Texas, started to blacklist companies with social governance commitments and things like that. So and it's not only there, I mean, in Germany, the new coalition government eliminated their due diligence laws for sustainable. So no, thank you, you don't have to do that anymore. That's just nonsense. All right, so all kinds of swings of the pendulum that probably begs the question of why do we want to do this? You know, that big why behind it, and stand for that, not for wherever the popular opinion is going. Number 8, across the world, there are more people with money, and that makes marketers across the world very, very happy. Recent stats makes it seem as though middle income, and I mean middle income is where people have a little bit of extra money so they can start buying stuff. Therefore, the marketers are always very interested in middle income numbers. And we see there, especially in the lower middle income, the rapid increase of many people reaching the lower middle income levels. Now, of course, the minute you say something like that, there's a lot of criticism that says, yeah, but that's going to be very short-lived because AI is going to distract all of those jobs. And then people were thinking they were getting to middle income and then they're not, and then they're going to be very annoyed kind of thing. So all kinds of interesting things happening here. But for now, it looks as though there may be more people having a little bit more money going forward. All right, so those were the 8 dots from the horizon.
Doris, before we carry on, I've got 2 questions about this section.
Yes, please, that would be lovely.
So, Garen, I don't know if you want to ask the questions yourself or if I can read it on your behalf.
You're welcome to read them. All right.
Okay, so Garen wanted to know about the BER business confidence. If we know the business sectors, so which business sectors are currently outliers that have a very high and very low confidence factor?
Oh, that would be very interesting. The BER actually counts that. I don't have the data at hand, but I have it somewhere in my computer. So if I can promise to send you that, but I mean, it's on the BER's, they publish this quite widely. But yeah, I'm more than willing to. The construction sector is usually one of the ones that goes up and down, depending on where we are. They're probably one of the most volatile ones, but always interesting to see where they are. That's a very interesting question. I haven't read the analysis recently about the sectors, but will you remind me?
I'll keep Garen's question out there. So Garen, we'll send you something in more detail as soon as we can. And then Garen's got a second question and wanted to know, is there any South African organization that are currently developing something to the equivalent of OpenAI or Grok or DeepSeek that we know of?
I know that there are many South African organizations that are using that to develop all kinds of clever things. Jan, can we pass this question to you? Do you know?
Just try and unmute. And not as far as I know, Doris. I think Garen himself might actually know better than I would. But I think that the resources required to build your own large language model is just tremendous. I don't think South Africa's got any competitive advantage or access to data or energy actually to make that happen, access to chips and the like. So I suspect that we are not a player in the actual core AI layer, but rather, like you said, in the application layer of the AI.
Yeah, and I mean, strategically, that makes sense now, because just to try and play catch up and get everything that you need before you can build something like that is like, let's just go straight. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Garen, do you want to respond?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been following the AI quite closely. So since basically OpenAI came out, I've been on the train with it as well, really early adopter, right? So I know, for instance, like in America, they've got several models, Grok one being the biggest, which is from Elon Musk. The problem America faces now is their infrastructure for power generation can't accommodate all the AI models globally at the moment. South Africa is so far behind that, even with because of the ESCOM. But China has been developing energy farms for the last 20 years just to accommodate the technology boom, not even including AI. So they have so much surplus energy at the moment, even if they run all their AI models, they can still produce a surplus energy. So I was just wondering, I know ESCOM is restricted to aspects of energy itself, but I was wondering if AI, if we're launching this and trying to get on a global scale to sell to China possibly, because I know our partnership with China is getting stronger and stronger. So that was just one of the stuff that I've noticed.
I'm just wondering whether China would be interested. I think they want the world to use theirs. Don't you think? I was
very much so. I mean, DeepSeek is a phenomenal model. That DeepSeek is extremely powerful, but the upscaling equivalent to what the other models can do is they lag. That's the only problem. But when they launch, the cost of what they're doing it is I can't remember the number, but I'm on correction. I think it's about 10% to what OpenAI can do at their cost. So it is quite phenomenal. It's a discount.
Yeah.
Pardon?
It's a 70th of the cost of OpenAI. One over 70.
Yeah,
so they are basically an order of magnitude.
Absolutely phenomenal. So, and I mean, with the NVIDIA chips being run, most of the AI models running on the NVIDIA chips itself, business confidence in South Africa, we're seeing already a boom in a lot of the brokerage practices as well, and the larger corporate models using AI for their planning. And I know you touched on it for the AI insurance itself. There's a big component to it at the moment. So I think that's something that's we're just touching this, not even the surface of what we're getting into with AI.
Yeah, and I think I said we were not going to talk politics, but you think of geopolitics now and just this power, because we've already seen an economic power shift moving southward and eastward. But the minute this digital power becomes more and more, we're probably going to see interesting power shifts in terms of geopolitics. Yesterday, I facilitated an innovation day with a group of executive MBAs from the world, and amongst others, there were 2 Chinese engineers that work for massive data people, and that was their idea in their group, to do something like this and sell to the world. So I suspect it's quite top of mind over there to do. We have the energy, we're making rapid progress with DeepSeek and everything else. Let us rule the world, kind of thing. Okay, ready to carry on? And John, you promised a prize for the one that I can't answer. So Garen has to get the prize for now. I mean, I didn't know the BER deeper question. So Garen is one prize already.
Yes, but we only have one prize, so there's no two prizes.
So must we say Garen is a strong contender?
Strong contender at the moment.
Strong contender. Okay. All right. So
We work
now
on
we're
tight
on
budgets.
four things to foster. So in our world where we have to think about where is human? What does it mean to be human going forward, given that technologies can do so many things? So four things that are uniquely human, but is also, especially for large organizations, but also for families, the things that would just help the humanness shine through. So 4 C's. The first one is curiosity. And think about your organization and your team and the culture in there. Do we actually allow and cater for and plan for curiosity? Are people allowed to play with things and break things? Are they allowed to come with new ideas? We like to say yes, but let's look at the reality of whether it is actually, do we actually foster curiosity in our organization? That's the first one. The second one is compassion. Really trying to hear each other, trying to understand, leaning in, because that is what humans can do. And if we look at how if you were playing with LLMs right from the start, you will see how they are programming the compassion deeper and stronger and deeper and stronger. I mean, ChatGPT has the best manners ever now, and really reaching out and trying to speak to, and can I help? And do you know, all kinds of nice things are built in there, that compassion kind of thing. We cannot let the tech outsmart us at our own game. People are by design designed to actually show compassion. And we should also cater for, allow for, and actually practice that. I'm now thinking of all of the AI partners that are available nowadays and how popular they are becoming, where people really get fond of their AI boyfriends or girlfriends and have long engaging discussions with them. So lots of compassion is what we actually need between humans. And then creativity, just play with things, be creative. Yeah, I still ask please, because yeah, maybe I was just, my mom was really strict about please. So I even use please with ChatGPT. I still okay, we have to be allowed to be creative and to try and create spaces for teams to just be creative, to just think about things. And the last one, to actually collaborate. And we get that right in teams. But for all of our efforts to work beyond pillars, we still have a lot of pillars. And there are so much potential synergies to be attained if we collaborate across and between our pillars. And nowadays also, I mean, the innovation happens in those gray spaces or the touch spaces between industries. So to collaborate across traditional industry boundaries is probably where next opportunities are emerging, where we can work with other partners from other industries, because industries are getting very gray. The other day, I was looking at organizations, the kind of business that they do, and the traditional JSE allocations. And I was thinking, I wonder how long these things are still standing, because many of those organizations you can take out of wherever they are allocated at the moment and just put them somewhere else, and they will live happily in there because of the kind of activities that they are doing. So collaboration and seeking the potential for collaboration early on, because that's where the potential next opportunities could be. All right. Now this report, the State of Corporate Foresight, is quite new. It was released just about 2-3 weeks ago. It was done in Europe, but they consulted across the world. Their survey went wherever. So end of August, they completed and released this report. And what they asked, or they looked at many things, and this comes from their executive summary, the 7 big findings in the report. The first one is that customer and market foresight is well established. In other words, people do a lot of research and thinking about what their customer would like next, and market research, that kind of things. But when they do planning, the planning horizons does not frequently extend even beyond 3 years, rarely towards 10, and beyond 10, extremely rare. So the other big finding that makes us very happy is that leadership engagement with thinking about alternative and longer term futures is growing, but people are very risk averse. So they would use it, but only to sort of help them to be better protected, kind of thing, not necessarily for opportunities, that kind of stuff. Foresight structures, in other words, how do you bring longer term thinking, scenario planning, that kind of stuff into a business? There's no one model. Organizations have multiple different ways in which they bring that in. And they said more than 80% of the firms that they surveyed apply foresight to their goal setting, but only about 40% of the organizations actually use it in explorative or adaptive strategies. So the focus more operational, what do we do next kind of thing. But the ones that do find value, 85% of firms see foresight as helpful in really uncertain and ambiguous context. So if your context is wobbling, then you suddenly find the value of thinking about the longer term. At the IFR, we are seeing that industries that are in trouble, they come running and say, hey, can you help us think? We don't know where to go next, kind of thing. So whenever uncertainty ups, COVID was good for business at the IFR because suddenly people realized, whoa, we have to think about things. So that finding in their report really resonated with me because we see that. So external impact is still limited. So only a third of firms see foresight as a tool to influence policy or to shape wider industry narratives. We're seeing a little bit of move there in South Africa with industry bodies coming to us and say, help us think about this because we want to speak to the policymakers, but we want to speak as a cluster within an industry or a whole industry body, etc. So interesting report, makes for good reading. You will see on all the slides, whenever I'm referring to anything, I put the link on the slide. So if you want to read more, just click on the link and it will take you to the report. All right, so that's the report on strategic or corporate foresight. And then the next opportunities. Every year, this is light, but interesting reading. So the Dubai Future Forum scans lots and lots of reports across the world. And then they say, let us look at potential opportunities. All right. So every year they compile what they think are 50 next opportunities. I really like this report because it's a little bit of positive something in, you won't believe all the dystopian things I have to read. Sometimes, because I mean, there's just really a lot of stuff going on. So I enjoy this one. And they have 5 categories. So health, nature, society, systems, and across the board, transformational ideas. So every year, it's usually about, end of the year around, they publish it for the next year. And I just picked 3 from the report. So they said, what if we create viruses? Now, on the one hand, I thought, whoa, isn't that scary? Because there are so many bacteria that became resistant to antibiotics. So they said, what if we create a special virus that could attack that? So precision treatment through these lab-engineered viruses. I created at least 10 scary movie plots based on this one. But that's one of the opportunities that they have identified to say, all right, maybe if our custom-made virus can then attack that bacteria that is antibiotics resistant, we don't need the antibiotics, and we then just extinguish the bacteria as well. This one was interesting. So many polluted water bodies in South Africa and across the world. And it takes really long, and a lot of chemicals is the solution at the moment. So what they said is wetlands are natural cleaning agents. So what if we can create small floating wetlands-like things? So actual nature things, and we put them onto the polluted water bodies, and then through that process, we're greening the space, but we're also cleaning the polluted water body. I thought that could be interesting to at least consider or think about. And then the third one is personalizing an algorithm just for you, your own algorithm that manages your activities across multiple platforms and secures your data and decide who can have access and what kind of access it has. So your data doesn't live elsewhere anymore. It lives with your algorithm, and you have the power to allow or disallow or anything like that. So heavily secured algorithm just for you that secures your data and your interaction on platforms, allowing a platform access, but then also making sure that it doesn't stay there and returns to you. So a big data, interesting shift in how you could or may be engaging with the digital economy going forward. Haha, I see people are willing to be beta testers for this one. Now, all right. Now, meanwhile, back in the back office, where everybody is a concept that we use in future studies called a used future. Now, a used future, back when we installed it, it was either a policy or a way we do that or physical layout or whatever. It worked, or it was necessary then, or it made sense then. But especially in legacy organizations, I mean, you and us, we're more or less the same age in terms of organizational age. We have these things that we just do, but they don't really make sense anymore. So I'm now, I'm reading the chat. So are there things that you just do in your organization because we have been doing it all along, but the bell is wrong on this thing? It's not necessary anymore. One example of it is, and many times with used futures, there becomes a disconnect between what we are saying we stand for and what we then actually do in the back office. One example would be where we proclaim that we focus on outcomes. We want you to just do your job, but then we measure keystrokes or time spent, or you have to clock in and clock out, that kind of thing. So examples of used futures, I won't put you on the spot to put it in the chat or anything like that, since this is being recorded. But make a few notes. Are there maybe in your environment examples of used futures, things that their time has come? We have to greet them fondly and just let them go because they're not relevant anymore. Looking for those used futures kind of thing. In our institution, there are many of those. We're struggling to let go of them. So I'm quite sure that you could have one or two as well. So think about used futures. Open a little file in your mind, and over the next week, as you do your activities, as you do the stuff that you do, identify whether there are maybe some used futures that are just slowing us down in the kind of work that we want to do. And then we're getting to the end of what I wanted to share with you. So now I'm sharing a little bit of interesting things. So if you have to run or do something, the IFR started a podcast. You are all recipients of our monthly scan. So based on the monthly scan, we pick one or two articles that we think deserve a little bit of further discussion or conversation. And then we do a podcast with the author that created that scan article and talk a little bit more about it. So we are recording the next one tomorrow. So interesting things to listen to, not too long. We try to keep it under half an hour. Just a little bit more on some of those scan articles. And then, I mean, end of October, those 3 days, just cross it out in your diary and book to attend. Find budget somewhere to attend the World Future Studies Federation's conference. The futurists from the world are coming. Like I said just now, all kinds of interesting, many academic conferences are very boring. This is not one of them. This is really an interesting conference where people come and share projects, how they think about the future, what they do. So if you can at all register, there is the link to the site. If you can attend, I mean, they haven't been in Africa for many, many, many years. This World Conference takes place every 2 years across the world, but haven't been to Africa for decades. So this time we have them right here in Cape Town at our business school campus. So if you can at all attend the conference. And then a few final thoughts to close off with. It is very messy out there. Our brains are lazy. We want to think there's one thing, or that there are linear connections between things. It's not. It is extremely complex and messy, but we are the people of now. And we are the people that must be brave enough to step into this immense complexity and guide our organization, guide our teams. So be those brave people that are willing to step into the mess. In systems thinking, they talk about this network of connections. They talk about the mess. Be brave enough and acknowledge that it's a mess, but we're going to do the best we can. So be the brave and step into the mess. And then when we make plans, many times we make plans based on the pain we are currently experiencing, and then it's just a reaction to the pain, rather than assess what will matter next and design for that. Because then we sort of design out the current pain or the potential for the pain, and we're already ready for whatever could be next. So assess what will matter next and design for that. And then when we talk about tech, always ask the human question as well, to say, what about the humans? What would the humans do? Where's the humans? And then a second question, should we, just because we can, and considering all the systemic complexities and realities in South Africa, if we expect our users to use a certain technology, are we actually putting them at more risk by adopting or expecting them to adopt a certain technology? Or are we really empowering them enough so that should we, just because we can, especially where it comes to technology adoptions, is a very important question to ask. But then we have to make a difference, seek to make a difference. I think that aligns with Sanlam vision in any case to make the world a better place. So I'm preaching to the choir here. But in that sense, I want to say, please carry on. The economy needs you. So please carry on doing business the way you are doing business, because we, the country, we need organizations like yours that are doing good and honest business. And like always, call us if you need us. You are a subscribed partner. I think Sanlam has been our oldest client. Right from the start, you have been subscribed to our products. Yeah, we are very proud of the association with your organization. We enjoy working and thinking with you. All right. And that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions? Oh, there's a nice question. Marion says, do you think there's equal attention paid to both promoting health and on the other side, controlling illness, fixing broken bodies? More fascinated as humans with the latter. Yeah, we probably, and the shift is extremely important. Keeping people healthy rather than just, managing by exception when they're sick, doing something, Marion, yes, for sure. But we're also seeing organizations like yourselves and your competitors really stepping into that space and helping people to realize that they actually have a part in promoting health and doing things. Yeah. Garen, no questions, just the FYI. There's a great research paper that shows that Gen AI boosts individual creativity, but makes group output less diverse and more similar. I agree with that. You see that, I saw that yesterday in that executive MBA, the group that immediately went to the Gen AI, one person asked the question and they said, yeah, they done. I said, okay, now think as well. I say, well, why? We got the answer already, kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas the other groups that went to the Gen AI last were more creative, more innovative, did all kinds of many interesting things.
Doris, there's a question from Stash as well, just above Dr. Marion's question.
Just let me see. Is that maybe, I'm not seeing that.
It's just
Maybe
come
it
through,
was-
Doris.
It might be then just maybe it was a direct message. So maybe it
there's
was
that.
just,
If most
yes.
of the jobs are eventually replaced by AI, what are the implications for business? Without how? Yeah. That's all the big questions, Stash, that we have to ask. And initially, what AI did was to erode entry-level jobs, those menial tasks. But what AI is doing now that it's becoming more and more clever is to start touching on white-collar jobs, your job and mine. There's already an organization that is selling a futurist AI. In other words, I don't have a job anymore because you just ask the AI, you tell it you want scenarios for this and that, and a few seconds later it's done. It's scanned whatever is available. It goes more or less through all the activities we do in a big scenario activity in a few seconds, and there you have it. So the next AI disruption is probably going to be in white-collar jobs, which is very, very scary. And exactly why we need those 4 C's of making humans actually relevant in organizations and finding the ways in which humans plus tech can function, because it's also not, there is this knee jerk of, no, we're just going to throw that away. We don't want that. Too late. It's already and so we have to find the ways in which we're going to work together, humans and tech. Yeah.
Doris, you can maybe share what we learned in Finland from Jerome Glenn around AI and generative AI and AI generative intelligence, and what he said around his view from the Millennium Project.
Yeah, Haylette, do you maybe want to share a little bit of your insights from that? We went to Finland to their Futures Research Conference, and Glenn is the chairperson of the Millennium Project, with think in really long terms. Haylette?
Yeah, so it was a Futures in Technology. Garen, I thought you might have enjoyed going there, so maybe have a look out for that in the future, any Finland conferences that has to do with futures thinking. But he's not anti-AI. He believes that AI has lots of value and can really help develop and shape the world, and can maybe come up with solutions that humans need in the world at the moment, but that we need to still have those 4 C's in managing the AI and ensuring that the necessary disciplines are in place, so that we can actually not be ruled by AI, but that the AI is under human focus, if I can put it that way. And that also brings me back to that book by the Oxford Martin School, Doris, The Meaning of the 21st Century. If you haven't seen it, have a look. It's a yellow book. And it actually says that humans need to manage technology. Technology is a tool, and it's not supposed to manage us. So sometimes I just chuckle at all the craziness about AI, because in the end, AI is a tool that we need to get hold of and manage and make sure we know how it works. It shouldn't manage us. So it could be a great thing if we actually make use of it in the right way. But early adopters like Garen is amazing. I'm a laggard, so I sort of sit back and watch how this thing is going to play out. So that's probably not very helpful. But yeah, I just felt that Jerome Glenn actually helped me to understand, if you can find him on the internet, that AI actually has its purposes and its place, and we can utilize it in ways that isn't as scary as we think.
Cool. Any other questions from the team? And I think in Sanlam we have our technology guys that make sure we can't do everything that we want to on AI and those kind of things. But let's not go into that at the moment. But yeah, thank you very much, Doris and Haylette. Any other question, guys, that you want to ask? Else
I think Dina's comment about is AI already not controlling us to a certain extent. It definitely controls what we read now, because the algorithm in your device acts upon what you've read before. So if you open your phone on your news feed, it's going to feed you what it thinks you are interested in based on whatever you've read before. So my challenge, as always, is confuse the AI as much as what you can, so that you get a diverse lot of information. And then yesterday I had an interesting and scary experience. I was preparing to make a speech at a church gathering of pastors and things like that. And then I explored a little bit, because you can now also chat to Jesus. There are Jesus AIs. And then I found one, so you can actually do a video call with Jesus if you want to. So I clicked there, and then it says, Jesus loves you, but he's in high demand. So you are number XX in the queue. But while you're waiting, please just give us permission. And then the permissions came up of what I have to permit this thing to have access to on my device. And then I thought, no. Okay, I'm opting out. No video calls with Jesus today, if that is what he wants access to in my device. So all kinds of interesting things happening out there. Okay, have I freaked you out enough now? There's also for the other religions, there's also other religious things, but since I was preparing for the Christian pastors, there's that there. For the other deities, there are also their deities to speak to if you want to.
I think there's going to be lots of Google searches now for all of these.
If you wait a second, I will give you the John, you can I will show you what it said.
But Doris, to your point, and I think about confusing AI nearly, it is, if you on all your social media and all those feeds, it's like Amazon and those kind of things that suggest your next purchase. It learns from your history. So that is quite confusion to get a bit more out of it. So you support the Springboks and for All Blacks, and then it just confuses the whole picture for AI.
So yeah, just for fun is the talking to Jesus one. So that was the greeting when you land. So there's GPT, Jesus, that's it. And then the Jesus AI, when you log in, it plays these smooth, trancey music for you. And then that bottom black and red one, I don't know whether black and red is really Jesus colors, but anyway, AI Jesus, you can do the video call and then says Jesus loves you, but he's in high demand. He's just a little bit busy right now. Anyway, okay. On that note, John.
On that high note. Thanks, Doris. As always, it's wonderful for the team to come and present, and definitely once again interesting, and learned a lot in this session. There's always something new and wonderful. So thank you again for this, and looking forward to end of October.
Cool.
Cool.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Everyone.
Bye.
Okay, bye.